Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Boy, am I glad it is Friday. It's been a long week, hasn't it? A lot of new developments to talk about today. And we're going to be in Google Earth. We're also going to go over some headlines today. So I'm glad that you guys could all make the show. Now, the first thing we're going to look at today in Google Earth is something that a man named Walter found on the channel here. I think he sent me an email, or was it in the comment section? I can't remember. But he asked me to take a look at Astana, Kazakhstan. Now, this city has recently been renamed Nur Sultan after the president who served there, I think back in like 2018, 2019. So they have changed the name of Astana to Nur Sultan. And I'm guessing probably the reason why they changed the name is because when you scramble the name Astana, of course it spells Satan, doesn't it? Now, that's not the only reason why we're looking at this today, because we found something else in the landscape. And we found this years ago. And I don't think we were the ones who originally found it, but we were the ones who actually found the alignments of this site in Astana, Kazakhstan. And what it is, this is an entire palace complex. Now, the scale of this thing is massive. We're talking thousands of acres of these crazy palaces and towers and buildings. And as we begin to break this down, you'll see that something emerges out of the landscape. Well, we see a needle, a hypodermic needle. Now, this isn't just any hypodermic needle. This is a needle used to insert RFID chips. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this. You can see this. And then we're going to get into the feathered serpent aspect to this as well, because that is also in the landscape. Let me zoom this up so you can see that this point here culminates in a pyramid, as do many other of these needles that we found in the landscape all around the world. So here's the pyramid here. And I want you to understand that these are not just arbitrary lines. These are outlines of specific streets and structures within this government complex that seem to create the shape of an RFID needle. Now, how could this be? Well, we know how it can be, because this is their end game, isn't it? Let me toggle this on and off for you. Oops, that's not the one. Here it is. So you can see the shape emerge there. So as you can see, all I did was outline these buildings. Now I'm trying to do a better job of actually showing you how we came about these lines. Because, there are the naysayers out there that said, well, what are you drawing lines around? Well, I'm showing you. Let me toggle it on and off again. As you can see, there's a clear delineation of what appears to be a needle. Now, as I said, we had found these needles pretty much all over the world. In fact, most of you are the ones that actually found them, not me. You're like, hey, Casey, you got to look at this one and this one. We found them in Seattle. We found them in Lower Manhattan, in Central Park. We found them in Paris. Now I'm going to do a wide angle view so that you can see and compare the needle that's obviously there to the needle next to it, which is just to give you a reference point. And as I toggle it on and off, you can see what was outlined. Now, what does all this mean? Well, let's go down here and see if we can figure this out, because all of this centers around a single feathered serpent. Let's zoom this up so you guys can see the feathered serpent. Now, This is it here, and it is the tip, or not the tip, but it is in the needle. And as you can see, there's a winged creature here with a serpent in the middle of it. Now this serpent is submerged. You can see the head here twisting around in the Ouroboros shape. And this serpent is submerged underneath like this pond. And you can only really see it when this pond is dry. And here's where you really get a feeling for the scale of these grounds and these gardens, where all of this is drawn into the landscape. This must have cost billions of dollars. Unending wealth to create this. Here you see the tongue is like lightning. And the serpent underneath the surface. And of course the feather in the back here, in this back portion. Now this was one of the first major discoveries on this channel. I think we discovered this in 2012 or 2013. This feathered serpent aspect to these grounds. And you can go back on this channel to the history and you can see this. I think it's under lines of death, I think we called them. We found all these lines going across the planet or the plane. And we were looking at where these lines were pointing to. And the grounds on this particular image here point to actually the feathered serpent in Mesoamerica. Look at this line here. See this white line? Let me zoom it up a little bit. You're going to see a red line next to this white line. Let me turn it around here. We're going to follow this line across the world. And as you can see, it's a parallel line. It's a line. It's pointing somewhere, isn't it? Well, in 2012 or 2013, we found where that line was pointing to. And anybody can do this in Google Earth. Now, for the naysayers there that say this line points anywhere, no. It points on a set path and only intersects with a very, 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 very small portion of the planet. This one, this line, happens to point all the way across the world to the temple of the feathered serpent in Mesoamerica, right to the front door. This line here is where it points to. So there's obviously some kind of connection to these two sites, isn't there? Now, who is the feathered serpent? Well, the feathered serpent is Quetzalcoatl, isn't he? The crowned serpent. The corona serpent. And it's always been about two fangs piercing you. It's always been about two shots piercing you. The coronation of the serpent. Remember the crowned serpent we found in the film I Am Legend? When the cobra Mustang, the serpent cobra, pulls in underneath the crown as Will Smith is chasing deer. And then we found that those deer were running into these cars that looked like a winding serpent. It was all right there, hiding in plain sight, wasn't it? We also found a crowned serpent in the redesign of the Handy Sook School. We're going to look it up right now since we're here. Let's see if it shows up here. I'll show you the crowned serpent there. Why would they redesign a school to look like a crowned serpent where something so dark happened? Let's turn off the history here. Spin this around. And everybody sees the crowned serpent as I spin this up here. You can see the snout of the serpent. You can see the crowning on the top of his head. This is bragging. You can see the eye of the serpent here, the snout and the crown above on top, and it's slithering around here. a crowned cobra. Now, let's go back here. Now, what was this all about? Well, this has been going on for many, many years. Blind 11 was the segue to our loss of freedoms. Then electronic medical records, and then Vidco and the smack scenes. It was all planned. It was all planned. So, we have continuity, don't we? We have a progression of plans that brought us to where we are now with these mass injections, don't we? All going back to the Patriot Act. Now, we're going to cover that in the film Enemy of the State. That's coming up on Monday. But this was an amazing find by Walter. I had looked at this Astana, Kazakhstan many, many times and never noticed the needle right there in the landscape. Now, as I said, we've identified many of these needles across the world. Seattle, Paris, Manhattan, San Francisco. All those videos are up here on the channel for you to check out. And it's weird because most times the tip of these is a pyramid or an obelisk. In the case of Washington, D.C., the tip of that needle is the Washington Monument. In the case of San Francisco, the tip of that needle is the Pyramid Building, the Transamerica Building. And here, of course, in Kazakhstan, the tip is a pyramid as well. Now, I found another aspect to the syringe, because it isn't just about smack scenes. See these curved fingers? This curved part where the plunger is? Let's zoom in on it because I want you to remember what you're looking at here, because now your mind is going to be blown away. And praise God for revelations like this, because this has got to be one of the most chilling discoveries out there in terms of the truth movement. I'm now going to take you to Dealey Plaza. And there, halfway around the world, the very same fingers of the needle, the Rfid needle plunger, in the very spot where JFK was assassinated. Now, what makes this very troubling is that there is something about this event. There was a man carrying an umbrella. And there were theories as to what all that meant. In fact, they believed that there was a poison dart. Now, let me show you that here, because you're not going to believe this. They believed there was a poison dart. That either incapacitated, these are theories, of course, but this is a real thing. Here's the site here, decoding the Kennedy assassination. And as you can see here, the theory is that an umbrella was used. There wasn't a cloud in the sky as President Kennedy's motorcade made its way through Dallas. But on the sidewalk, one man held an open black umbrella above his head. Why? Was it a signal to an assassin? Was the umbrella itself a weapon? It sounds unlikely, but it's not completely bizarre. Umbrellas that fired poison darts were used as weapons during the Cold War. And here's a diagram of this poison dart shooting out of the side here through a hole. This is an actual device. Forensic evidence ruled out the dart theory since nobody in the car was hit by one, but this signal idea wasn't debunked until the Umbrella Man identified himself to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1979. Now, this is a real thing because it is said that another individual was taken out by a poison dart from an umbrella. And now you're starting to see the picture come together because Umbrella Man at the JFK assassination was really a signal for the future mass smaccination of the world. Umbrellas are hypodermic needles, aren't they? Based on the research that we've done, they're one and the same. They share similar parts in their design. The ferrule, which is the tip of the umbrella. There's also a ferrule in a hypodermic needle. A Bulgaria umbrella is an umbrella with a hidden pneumatic mechanism which injects a small poisonous pellet containing ricin. It has a hollowed stock in which the pellet neatly sits. Such an umbrella was used in named for the assassination of Bulgarian dissident writer Georgy Markov. Hit with a poison umbrella dart. So, this stuff is real. Needle umbrella confirmed. Now, Monday we're going to take a look at Enemy of the State with Will Smith, which is all about a congressman who's killed with a syringe. There's umbrellas. They even say the words and the date, Blind 11, before it ever happened. 3 years before it happened. That'll be Monday's show. So now you're starting to see that as knowledge increases in these last days, we're unlocking the keys to more and more of the plans of the enemy, aren't we? And the Bible tells us that this will happen. Let me zoom this out so you guys can see the whole thing of this. Now, when I saw this, the way this worked was with this Dealey Plaza JFK assassination thing is you guys kept on me. You're like, Casey, you got to check out or look into the Umbrella Man from the JFK assassination. I'm like, chances of that connecting into all this are probably close to none. In my mind, this is what I was saying. Because, that's a long time ago, and really, I don't think that it had anything to do with smaccinations. And so this is what I was thinking. But then I went to the site, and there is the finger holders of the hypodermic needle, and I was like, it's all connected. They were telling us that umbrellas are needles, and then all the rest of the puzzle pieces fit together at that point. Now, what else do we have here? As we examine the Rfid smack scene syringe written right into the landscape. This was obviously part of their future plans for a very long time. Now, interestingly, these proof videos that we've done on the smaccination needles in the landscape, they're sitting at very low views, you guys. 5,000-6,000 views. I don't know why, but this is one of the most major discoveries on this channel in a long time. And it should be seen by millions of people. I don't know how we're going to make that happen. I know you guys are doing everything you can. I've tried to fix my videos to make them more viral friendly, but we're not breaking through. It's pretty much the same people that we've had on the channel for the last year. We're stuck. So I don't know how to break outside of that. I don't know if other people on other channels with much larger truth subscribers need to hear it. I go on other channels and I don't recognize anybody in the comment section of other channels, which tells me there are a lot of people that either don't know about us or simply are not finding the channel. So that is the Umbrella Man that was present on the sunny day that JFK was assassinated. immobilized possibly by a poison dart or even killed by it. Who knows? Others say that this umbrella man signaled the shooter. Either way, it's just really, really weird, isn't it? Now, what else do we have here? Now, I have a few headlines I want to go over today. I'm going to go ahead and close Google Earth so we don't get messed up. I have a few headlines we're going to go over. Oh, here's the Wikipedia page on the Umbrella Man, so you know it's not just some made-up story. They identified him as Louis Stephen Witt. He was the Umbrella Man. I think this is the picture here. They actually show the umbrella in this picture. That might be him right here. But basically what they say here is he appears in the Zapruder film and several other films and photographs near the Stemmons freeway sign within Dealey Plaza during the assassination of JFK. And the guy says there was nothing going on. In fact, he says that the reason why he had the umbrella was to mock the president, because this was some kind of a sign or symbolism. Symbolism that was supposed to mock the president, because the president's father had basically, what do they call it? Appeased Bette Midler, that person. And because of that, this umbrella was supposed to represent mockery. This was actually used before against Neville Chamberlain. People would pull out umbrellas and wave these black umbrellas. Think of the ramifications of that. Think of all the experiments that the Yahtzees were doing, using needles. So maybe that's what this was really about. But that was the excuse that the Umbrella Man gave. He died not too long ago in 2014, November 17th, just days before the anniversary of the assassination. Crazy, right? All right, you guys, let's get into some of these headlines. I'm going to check and make sure you guys are with me, and then we'll get into some of these headlines. Appreciate everybody showing up on a Friday. Now, this is crazy because I guess Lucky Charms aren't so lucky. Look at this. They're obviously not too magically delicious either, because delicious has now become DIE-licious because they can kill you. Yes, people are getting sick from Lucky Charms. Now, this used to be my favorite cereal, but then one day I decoded Lucky Charms. I think it was years ago when we looked at Lucky Charms. We looked at all the charms. We looked at how many. We looked at the progression of charms that they added over the years, and broke down these charms as satanic sigils, demonic sigils, put right into the Lucky Charms. And here we are, poisonous Lucky Charms. Look at the rainbow of all this. Do you think they knew what they were trying to do all the way back then with all the rainbow stuff going on right now? Of course they knew. It's all part of the plan. Gold digging, rainbow crowd is where we're at right now in history. And this is why we always need to preserve independent media. Because you would never find out about some of these things unless you read it in a blog or a Facebook post. And the way these people found out was through like a Facebook post. A bunch of parents started posting about it. But here's the problem. When you do a Google search on some of these topics, you don't see Facebook posts or groups. That's a problem. And it's intentional because they don't want people comparing notes. They don't want us sharing free information and being able to access that information to find patterns in their lies. And that's why you rarely see a Facebook group come up when you do a search, because they know that we'll start putting the puzzle pieces together, and they want us to sit in our ignorance and not understand what's going on and what their agenda is. Look at this. What's going on with the FDA? Lucky Charms and sick consumers. What you need to know. Oh, okay, so they're going to tell us what we need to know. All right. The cold cereal that popularized marshmallows and oats in milk for breakfast. Lucky Charms is being investigated by the FDA as claims of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea from the cereal became more plentiful than the number of marshmallows in each bowl. Here's what you need to know. In an email to the Miami Herald Monday, an FDA spokesman said its Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutritional Adverse Events reporting system has received over 100 reports related to Lucky Charms in 2022. And the agency is currently reviewing and investigating these reports. So they have an adverse event system for food. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if they dismiss these claims until they've proven it with an investigation, like they do with the smack-scene. Wall Street Journal story quoted the founder of the food safety website, iwaspoisoned.com, as claiming 3,000 reports from sickened consumers. It's those complaints that General Mills referenced as it answered a series of I got sick comments on its April 4th Facebook post. We take the consumer concerns reported via a third-party website very seriously, company says. There are continuing internal investigations. We have not found any evidence of consumer illness linked to the consumption of Lucky Charms. Okay. So here are some of the posts. This lady's son is sick with stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting. Now look, I understand that this might not be the Lucky Charms at all. It could be the milk that they put in. Maybe they got a bad batch of milk. I've drank milk before and you get like a stomach ache sometimes. So we don't know this for sure, but this is kind of creepy, isn't it? So this is what's going on with Lucky Charms. Now, let's get into some of these next stories. Now, this next article is very concerning to me. And I want us to take a minute and focus on this because this is troubling. Because anytime the government pulls out their wallet to give you money, they always want something in return, don't they? In this case, the feds are giving away money so that they can insert a spy into rural communities. Now, if you think I'm being paranoid, I want the least amount of government possible in my rural community. People move to rural communities to get away from government, don't they? And I think what this is a plan to keep checks on the rural communities. You know, the same rural communities that didn't buy into the Vidco hysteria, that kept being America even through this whole spamdemic. Could you imagine a federal spy in your community reporting back your transgressions to the federal government so that they can gaslight you and blackmail you back into submission? This is chilling. White House launches new initiative to get federal dollars to rural America. Bo Jiven administration announced a new initiative to spy on people, to the Rural Partners Network that aims to reset the way Washington works with rural communities around the U.S. Led by the Department of Agriculture, the program will place federal employees in rural communities around the country to live and work as spies and bring more federal dollars to the nation's most isolated communities in the process. Their mission is to help locals navigate Washington's intimidating bureaucracy. What if people don't want to navigate the bureaucracy? So they're giving away some bones. They're throwing in some grant proposals. You can do grants now. So they're trying to pretend like they're going to help the rural communities by giving them grants and things. Now, this is going to be a huge carrot for some of these local mayors and stuff like this. They're going to want to bite the apple, aren't they? Because this means money. But I beg you, if your mayor or your city council is thinking about accepting some of these federal dollars so that they can put plants in your community, you need to not vote for that person and run the other way. Because this is exactly what they're going to do. And once they start giving out money, they can take it away, can't they? They can say, well, you guys aren't compliant with Vidco. You guys have a low smack the nation rate here. or you guys aren't masking up, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that. We're going to have to pull back some of those federal dollars. And that's when they've got us, isn't it? So, they officially launched a program Wednesday in Mississippi and will begin in more than 25 rural communities and tribal nations across 5 states: Arizona, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, and New Mexico. White House officials contend the billions sit available to rural communities thanks to a bevy of programs tucked inside the America Rescue Plan. We need to finish the job on making sure rural communities can access these resources, senior administration officials said, adding the federal government has long been just making resources available is not enough. The federal government must work better for rural communities. How about you just send out some emails to the mayors and say, hey, this is available. You don't need to put a person in these communities. I don't want some person cruising around going, this town isn't being compliant with the federal laws. We don't need that, you guys. We don't need that. Now, this has all happened before, hasn't it? When the Pharaoh from ancient Egypt let God's people go at first, didn't he? And then as soon as they went out into the wilderness, the Pharaoh changed his mind. And he started coming after God's people. And what happened? The Red Sea closed in on Pharaoh, didn't it? Well, I believe that the Red Sea is metaphor for the return of Christ. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit, when he comes down out of the clouds to crush the serpent. And I'm looking forward to that day. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to that. Now, what else do we have here? Now, this kind of stuff irritates me to no end. American mask manufacturers take it on the chin. This just shows you how out of touch media and the elite government really is. They want you to cry a river for the mask makers as masks are starting to phase out. Now, this is shocking. The gall of this, after they've shuttered countless small businesses, ruined any savings that anyone has been able to save through their own good stewardship, they fired millions of people for not complying, and now they want us to feel sorry for the poor little billion-dollar mask makers. A U.S. judge ruling this week that Bo Jiven administration mask mandate for public transportation was unlawful, dealt another blow to an industry that built dozens of small U.S. mask factories. Why are they building mask factories? This is crazy. Just a year ago, 26 of these upstart producers signed a letter to the administration urging a crackdown on the influx of low-priced Chinese masks that was undermining their new operations, all of which were open in response to health crisis that highlighted U.S. dependence on foreign producers of all types of medical safety gear. So, the poor mask plants. Wow. So, that's pretty much... Oh, let me give you an update on this lady here. It's WNBA star. She's trapped over there in Russia. They found some cannabis oil or something in her luggage. She's been there a couple months since the conflict started over there, and they can't get her out. Now, the sentence that she's supposed to, could possibly face is years and years in prison. I think it's 10 years is what they said here. And it's crazy because now they're saying, the U.S. isn't doing anything because she's a woman and because she's LGBTQ and all this stuff. And this is the funny part, is that Bo Jiven claimed this. You would think he would be leading with this, right? But he's not. Because these people just make up stuff to pretend that they care about. They don't really care about the things that they say they care about. It's to get votes. So, this article goes on to show that past U.S. citizens that have been stuck in other countries, the federal government has gone to bat for them and tried to get them out. In this case, very little is being said about this woman. They're also trying to politicize this by saying that, oh, Russia is really hard on these communities, these kinds of communities, LGBTQ, and that things are probably not going to fare well for her because they are intolerant there of these things. Now, this is actually true. I looked this up, and believe it or not, Russia is very conservative. Now, that should tell you something, that they are so conservative, shouldn't it? That should tell you something more in line with conservative values. And so, you know, I don't know, that'd be a place where I'd want to live in terms of conservative values. But here we are. So let me go into the chat here, you guys. That was pretty much what I had for you guys today. There's other headlines, but we can go over those a different day. Maybe I'll do a headline show on the weekend because there's more to talk about. I don't want to make this show too long. Bo Mama, tackling misinformation. And we could talk about that a different day. Let's go into the chat here. Good morning. All right. Dog eat dog world. All right. I'm just reading in the chat here. Thank you guys for showing up today. Good morning. Virginia, mostly conservative, no mass castles, but they still love thump. And that's the right-left paradigm, isn't it? Why can't people not be on board with all that stuff and also be not in the right-left paradigm? Life in the Shack says, look at Ariel Memphis, Mississippi. Where's Ouchie been hiding? That's a good question. I've not heard from him lately, have we? All right, you're welcome, Crystal. The mask was a satanic ritual. Yes, it was. All right, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and pop off here. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Monday is going to be a huge show, Enemy of the State. I've got clips already set up for that, montage, and we'll put that together over the weekend. Take care and be safe, everybody.